as we get closer and closer to the NFL draft, we start seeing some NFL player to prospect comparisons. And before we dive in, Dustin, I want to ask you this, and then Tyvis, I want to ask you this before we get into the quarterbacks. But Dustin, did you have a player comp that you remember when you were coming out of Ohio State? Did you remember reading into the scouting report saying Dustin Fox has similar traits to player X?
Wow, good question. I have to think back to that a little bit because, like, my comps were not fair. They had nothing to do with my ability. It was more just about my skin color. So, like, the Seahorn stuff came up quite a bit, or they'd compare me to just the random white safety that played. I mean, it was yeah. I mean, it was really bizarre because when I went to the combine, I actually met with some guys, a couple of coaching staffs that didn't know. Like, I walked in the room and they thought I was like we're looking for Dustin Fox. I'm like, I'm here. They're like, no, like, you're white. They didn't know I was white because the trick was with my senior year, I wore sleeves. So, like, these guys have never met you. They just watch film and they just see it, Ohio State uniform, white sleeves, white socks. Like, you couldn't tell my skin color. So people thought I was a black dude. Pretty funny.
This is wild. So you telling me Dustin Fox was the first DEI NFL player?
I don't know that I was the first, but I appreciate the joke. Yeah, I mean, I was in the mix for sure.
He was in it, but Seahorn put y'all on though for about 2 years. Seahorn was the truth. Adam Archuleta, I bet you got that a lot. Was Archuleta before you or after you?
Archuleta was before me. Yeah,
because Archuleta was the first dude doing plyometrics like that. Like, so he had the 40-inch vertical, the 4.4, like he was doing the science stuff. And back in the I grew up with Dustin, so everybody just knew that they're like he was Matt McClung before then. Like, he would come and hoop and do the contest, and him and his brother both could jump. So it was like they kind of knew who he was a little bit in the streets.
Ty, who is your
streets were talking?
Yeah.
Ty, who is your comp?
Yeah,
they compared me to some guy that I didn't know, which probably should have been a sign that how my career was gonna go. It was, I think his name was like Kendrick Lewis, maybe. He was like a special teamer. He was a safety. He was like a special teamer. I think he played for like Baltimore or something like that. Just a special teams guy. Had a couple of starts here and there, but which I guess same thing that I was. They were right, I guess. So therefore, I guess these guys know a little something because they had me projected as a guy who could put it. I was my. You know how you get your little score or what you're going to be like 608 or 70 or whatever. Mine was, I think it was special teamer / backup. I think that's what it was. So they were right. They got that one right, I guess.
So with some of these, they end up being spot on. Some are way off. The comp is way too high. The comp is way too low. For this particular article I found, it's from Thor Nystrom, who does a really good job covering the NFL draft. And he was looking at the top 12 quarterbacks. We're going to focus on the top 6. But he's not looking at their potential. He's looking at more of their skill set, their traits, and who, when he watches the film, said college quarterback reminds him of. So I'm going to give you the quarterback to NFL player comps, and you guys can let me know if you think the comp, you can see it, if it's way off, and okay, even if the style is correct, will that player ever reach the ceiling or the floor of the potential comparison? So, G, I'll start with you on the first one. Thor Nystrom of Fantasy Life has Shadur Sanders as his number 1 quarterback. And his NFL comp for Shadur Sanders is Drew Brees. What say you?
That's kind of high, big dog. Like,
once again, he's looking at stylistic more than like potential.
I feel like, listen, this gets me in trouble because these little snippets. I'm like Jason Lloyd now. G. Bush said Shedeur Sanders is Breeze. Like, no. I didn't say that's tough. I can see where they're getting it from. Like, Shedeur is he's not 6'5", 240. He's not a huge guy. Doesn't have a huge arm. He's very accurate. He's very smart. He's intelligent. Played a lot of football. Drew Brees at Purdue played a lot of football. And he had to maneuver and find different ways to, get angles and throw the football because he wasn't that big. But I could see him at that level, but I got a hard time calling somebody Drew Brees. Like, we used to call him Breezes for a little bit because he was throwing for 5 and just parting the Red Sea. Like, I can't. I can see where they make that analogy at. It's not too bad, but the production part is the part that I'm looking at. Like, oh no, he gonna have to have a great career if he want to do that.
Ty?
I mean, listen, when you think about, a guy that's doing his ball comes out probably the best when it comes to like timing throws. Drew Brees was the king of that. Timing. He's gonna put the ball in the same spot every time, right on time. And when you think about Shedeur, obviously he did that a lot. Drew Brees also was very accurate and threw a very good deep ball. Shedeur Sanders throws a very accurate deep ball as well. So I think that's where it comes from. And, I think the main part that I think that they're speculating is that both quarterbacks did really well when pressure was in their face. Drew Brees, although he was 6 foot, maybe, he did a really good job of, getting the ball out of his hands when that pressure was coming. If you look at Shedeur Sanders, same thing. He has no problem standing into that pocket and delivering a nice, accurate ball, even with pressure around him. So I think that's where they get the Drew Brees comparisons from as far as that. Obviously, Drew went on to the NFL and was sensational as a quarterback, broke so many records. That's a very tall ladder to climb. But for Shedeur Sanders, that's an honor to be mentioned in the same breath as a Drew Brees.
Dustin?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's an honor to be in the conversation with the player of the stature of Drew Brees, who's Hall of Fame quarterback and won a Super Bowl and all these things. They both have some similarities. They're both sort of like, they're not mobile quarterbacks, like where they're going to run a ton, like a Lamar Jackson or someone like that. But they are mobile enough to be able to move around the pocket and make plays improvisationally. You know what I mean? I think they're both good at that. The smarts, the ability to diagnose and all those things, I think that's a big part of it too. But I mean, Drew Brees, it's just hard to compare a college kid to a player who's played 15 to 20 years in the league and is going to have a gold jacket on. You know what I mean? Like, it's really tough to make those comparisons. It's really unfair to the player coming out in the draft, because those expectations are really tough to live up to. But you have to do it. I mean, it's what we do. People are going to compare a player and be like, who's he remind you of? And you're going to say, okay, well, it kind of looks like this guy. And that's just kind of how it goes. It doesn't mean you're going to be that player. It doesn't mean like that Shedeur Sanders can't be better than Drew Brees. So you don't want to put a ceiling or a floor on a player based off of a comparison. So that's the one area where I don't like it. But again, I mean, if you're Shedeur Sanders, you're thinking about reading these articles and you read this stuff and hear these things, you're like, wow, that's high praise, man. I better, I have a lot to live up to here. You know what I mean?
If he, I'm gonna tell you this: if he's anything near Drew Brees,
the Browns better take it. They better sprint that number 2 pick up there and take him with the.
I might buy my wife a jersey. I really might.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You got to buy her a watch, G. If it's Shedeur, you got to buy her a watch. Exactly.
Can you? How would you? But first, G. Bush, she would be like, I want jersey.
Yeah, I would like jersey, but my favorite player is Lamar Jackson.
I haven't even met your wife. Does your wife really talk like that?
Yeah.
Yes. It's awesome. Okay. Rose is the best.
Okay,
the absolute best.
All right, I got to meet her one of these days.
In the article, when Thor is describing why he saw Drew Brees as a comp for Shedeur, he talked about his decision making, the pinpoint accuracy, and the thing he said reminded him most of Drew Brees is even under pressure, the throwing motion does not change. It's the exact same delivery, the pressure in the pocket, on the run. And that was when he said, if you strip the names off the back of the jersey, take the numbers off and watch these guys in black and white, and you didn't know who player X was and player Y was, those two things were really similar. So that was his kind of reasoning for comparing Shedeur Sanders to Drew Brees.
It's starting, Tyvis. Y'all know how it is. When the more you get towards these combines, listen, I like Shedeur Sanders. You're going to start seeing these little stories and these superlatives thrown out there. If you take the name off the back of the jersey, you close your eyes and blindfold yourself, turn around 3 times, he looks just like Drew Brees. I'm telling you, he's the number 2. These dudes be shooting up the draft, man.
All I'm saying is before he said all that, I had said exactly. Maybe I'm missing my caller, Mikey. Maybe I should become a draft expert. Maybe I should look at people's stuff and be like, oh, you know what? He does this well and that way. That's kind of crazy. But yeah, no.
Do it, and we will make a segment out of it. We would love to have. Right. Listen, we're using Thor Nystrom's. I would prefer to use Tyvis Powell if you want to put in the work and come with some comps for these guys. You can start with the next one, though, Tyvis. Cam Ward. Thor Nystrom compared Cam Ward on tape and said this was the most similar comparison of all in his mind to Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh.
Do you see that as a potential comparison for Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback?
Ooh, that's you know what though? That's really not a bad comparison, actually. Now that I sit here and I'm thinking about Jordan Love's game and I'm thinking about Cam Ward's game, you know, honestly, if I was Cam Ward, I'd be kind of scared because now that means that you might need to sit for a couple years. which we already said that a lot of these quarterbacks probably would do service by sitting a year and learning the NFL game, but you know, when you think about Jordan Love had a really good arm. And Jordan Love has throws. I mean, he had the best throw I seen last season where he threw it to the tight end. I can't remember who they was playing, but it was like, dude, it was like, oh, like you couldn't even, the DB hand was just like this, and it just went right past it like that. And Cam Ward, when you watch him, he does some of the same things where it's like, dude, did you see him make that pass? So, but it's not consistent. You know, it's something that you still got to tweak and you still got to continue to work to make it more consistent. And I guess that when you think about Jordan Love, in the same vein, you know, he had moments where he looked really good, but then, you know, they play like Detroit and he's throwing pick sixes to players and stuff like that. So it's not a bad comparison at all. Actually, it's kind of spot on. I think Jordan Love, you know, obviously, what I will say about these two is if Cam Ward was to be a Jordan Love, then he better go to a Matt LaFleur type play caller like that. Because now which for a lot of these quarterbacks, the team that you go to, you need to go to a good offensive-minded coach that understands your talent and is going to put you in situations to succeed. Because if Jordan Love went to, I don't know, the Bears, would he be the same? I don't know. But like I think that with Matt LaFleur, he did a really good job of honing in on what his strengths is and put him in the right situation. Same thing I feel with Cam Ward.
Justin?
The Love comparison is good. One that I think of that I think is better. Tell me what y'all think. I think Vince Young is a little more of a comparison for me with Cam. More so the release. It's kind of I don't know. They look very similar. Yeah. Effortless. Yeah, and they are obviously very, very smooth athletes. So I think sort of in between the Vince Young and Jordan Love is where you're going to find a Cam Ward. All those guys are great players. Vince was obviously a better college player than a pro, and whatever happened in the pros, that's you can debate that.
He got with the wrong coaching staff.
That happens from time to time with players. So yeah, Cam. Do you like that comparison? Do you think Vince Young is a little of that? I mean, you got a little Vince
without the running, obviously.
Yeah, Vince Young is a better athlete. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
But here's my comparison. I hate to say it. Y'all gonna be mad. Y'all gonna be salty.
No, we ain't.
It rhymes with G-W Lord, doesn't it?
Yeah. This is Deshaun Watson before he was bad. Like he is like when Deshaun Watson got to Houston, like that second year where he was just running around, if you close your eyes and you go back and watch Clemson, Deshaun Watson, and watch the nonchalant nature in which he's just doing what he wants. Like he's just like, oh yeah, I'm over here, flick, touchdown. Oh, you can't touch me. I'm a little faster than you. And then he gets to Houston, you're like, man, he'll never get that off. And he kept getting it off. He reminds me of Deshaun Watson. Like, and I'm like, who throws deep balls like this? No one's throwing deep balls where they just turn around and throw the ball. He reminds me of how that level of like I'm better than y'all. So I think sometimes when people say Cam Ward, I get like flashbacks and I'm kind of like jaded. I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can really do this again, Tyvis. But he's a different person. And it looks like the Tennessee Titans are going to take him, so we might not get a chance to see it. But we've talked about that a whole lot. We've never really talked about the possibility of Cam Ward being second overall and what the Browns do about him.
I was going to ask you if let's say that the Tennessee Titans shocked the world and took Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter, which it's not out of play actually, it's really not. And Cam Ward and Shedeur sitting there, who you taking, G?
I want them to take
if you go a quarterback. If you are,
I want them to take it off the plate for me. I really do, because I think that Dustin, I'm like,
no, I see now. I'm rooting for it to happen because see now
I do not
because see this the thing. This what would make it so good is because right now a lot of people, the fan base is split 50-50. I think 50% want Shedeur, 50% want Abdul Carter. I would say. And the majority of people that want Abdul Carter is because they said that these quarterbacks are not good. They say Cam Ward is pretty good, but none of them is as good as the quarterbacks of last year. Okay, so if Abdul Carter is not available, what do you do? That would be the question. Like, what do you do? You stuck with Travis Hunter and the two best quarterbacks in this draft.
We've done that. We've done that before. I forget exactly how everyone answered, but the consensus was Cam Ward probably has a higher ceiling. Shedeur fits what Stefanski wants to do better.
I agree with that.
Which
one would you take, McNuggets?
Yeah, I'm starting not to think that McNuggets.
You may have been on the show that day. That may have been you. Could have been the one leading the charge.
I want to know who y'all would take if both quarterbacks was available.
If you think one's better than the other, you take the better one. If you think Cam Ward's better, you take Cam Ward. If you think Shedeur's better, you take Shedeur.
I'm taking Cam Ward.
What would you say?
I would take Cam Ward.
Okay. What about you, G?
I just, for some reason, I know that probably to me, I know Cam Ward is better by watching him play, but I just can't, I can see, I don't know why I could see Shedeur Sanders like being lights out in this offense. I just don't, it's just like, bro, Shedeur Sanders is good. I just see people being wide open. Like, because the way Stefanski gonna try to call it up. That may be just me. I don't think there's that big of a gap. And I do think, like, today, if you had to start one of them right now, I think Shedeur would probably perform better because he's more ready to play today. But in 2 years, Cam Ward might be the deal. He might be that guy. Like, you know what I mean? He has some Patrick Mahomes qualities a little bit.
We got over 1,200 people watching right now. My dad is one of them. He said his comparison for Cam Ward reminds him a lot of Steve McNair.
I was gonna say Aaron McNair alone.
That's a good one. That is a very good.
I feel like it's kind of in between Jordan Love.
Well, if that's the case, then the Tennessee Titans will sprint that pick in, and there it is.
McNair was nasty, bro.
McNair was big. He oh man, Alcorn State, man. Aaron McNair. He was bigger though. Was he bigger than?
Yeah, he was way bigger. Cam? Yeah, he was big.
Cam's 6'2", about 220. I feel like McNair was bigger than that. Like, pretty significant. Let me look it up.
Like he was a big ass dude, man. I was gonna say I felt like he was in his 240s, man.
McNair, according to ESPN, was listed at 6'2", 230.
Can you imagine?
Like he was bigger than 230.
Can you imagine? Back then they had Wycheck at tight end that was huge. They had Eddie George that was a monster, and they had McNair. You had to tackle everybody. I hated playing. I hated
Dyson.
The Titans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Have Tennessee had a quarterback since him? Like a good one?
Vince Young.
I mean, Tannehill was decent.
Tannehill was
Collins, decent. But no, not really. They haven't had a franchise guy.
They 100% taking Cam Ward.
No.
Dustin, I'll give you choice. You can go first this next one. Do you want to hear the comp for Jackson Dart, Jaylen Milro, or Will Howard next? I'll let you choose because you're going to go first on this one.
Okay. Well, Milro is my guy, so give me Milro.
According to Thor Nystrom of Fantasy Life, his comp for Jaylen Milro, Malik Willis.
No.
Nah, bro, we're not doing that.
No, and honestly, Malik Willis might be a better thrower than Milro, but Milro is I mean, Willis ain't running like Milro. No, they're not even close to being the same type of athlete. So they're both black, so we could say that. You know, that's a similarity.
Same build, a little bit,
but no, they I don't think that that's a good comp
at all.
You agree?
If you put Jaylen Milro in terms of athleticism, he's more athletic than Bryce Young. He's way more athletic than Jalen Hurts. The only guy that I could comp coming out that has his athletic ability is Lamar Jackson. I think Jaylen Milro will run a 4.4. If he ran one, I just think that, to me, the thing that scares me the most is I go back and I look at comps with Lamar Jackson, and they talk about the completion percentage, and they talk about the throwing mechanics, and they talk about, playing at Louisville, and it scares me because he kind of has the same type of numbers as Josh Allen had, where it was like, don't have a good completion percentage, hasn't played that much. When he does play, he has some wild plays, but he also has some plays that look bad. And it scares me because they said that about Hurts, they said it about Josh Allen, and they said it about Lamar Jackson. And this dude is electrifying, man. If somebody get a hold of him and he go to a camp or two, I'm telling you, Jaylen Milro going in the second round. Don't think he's going to make it to the third. Jaylen Milro going to be in the second round. I don't care what he did at the Senior Bowl.
You know what I think? First of all, y'all tripping because the Malik Willis, it's not that far-fetched. I mean, you got two guys that got big arms. Obviously, they got some mobility. It's not like Malik Willis is a turtle back there.
He's 4'6".
I'm saying
he's not 4'4".
No, but he wasn't slow, and he had that big arm. That's the same thing Jaylen Milro got. Now, I will say on an athletic standpoint, as far as mobility goes, it's not even close. Lamar is the closest thing to him from a running standpoint. But as far as an arm talent, it's really not that crazy to say Malik Willis. Like Malik Willis, Malik
that's the same. Malik can throw better.
I'm guessing that's where he
got a better arm.
Yeah.
So I would say that if Jaylen Milro, I'm with you. I think he will go in the second round. To be honest with you, McNuggets, if Cam Ward and Shedeur is taken in the first round, the Giants should take Jaylen Milro in the second round because Dayball is a pretty good offensive mind. He'll be able to tear up his playbook because he did it with Josh Allen and be able to make something happen with the Jaylen Milro. And you got Malik Neighbors, who's a burner. So I think those two actually would be pretty good together. That's a side story, though. But for Jaylen Milro, it ultimately comes down to, again, just like the rest of these quarterbacks, you have a guy that can put you in position to succeed. Are they going to make you go out there and throw the ball 50 times? That's not your game. No, you need to have a strong running game, because if you have a strong running game, boots and pulls is even more deadlier. Like, teams is already going to fear you. They're going to say, you know what? I don't know how good he can throw the ball, but man, with his legs, he's serious with his legs, which then means you need a good running back to take the edge off. Okay. Then what that does mean is now you got to be able to hit some of them short and intermediate routes. We already know you can do the deep ball route. That's fine. But the intermediate and short game is where you need to get better at. And I think with the right coach, they'll teach you how to get that ball out in a timely manner. But I also think that you got to have a good running game. But I think he'd be very successful in the second round. I know the Senior Bowl, everybody said his stuff is just not great, but the guy's an athlete, and as long as he has the will and the desire to be better, I mean, he has the intangibles to get it done. I mean, I think the deep ball, being very accurate on the deep ball is like the hardest thing to do, and he got that done. Like he's good at that, which is crazy. The other stuff, you just got to tweak. You got to get more touch on your ball. You got to take some stuff off or put a little bit more on here and there. And that's just all about touching. So I think that, you get with the right quarterback coach, I think they can help him out.
G, you go next. You want Jackson Dart or Will Howard?
Listen, since I brought Will Howard up before the Ohio State season, let's go with Will Howard. Let's go with Will.
This comp is not Mikey McNuggets comp. This comp is from Thor Nystrom of fantasylife.com. In the link, if you want to see it, his comp for Will Howard is Mason Rudolph. What say you?
Come on, man.
It's disrespectful, is what it is.
I mean, it really is.
Listen, I did not do this.
You're not really going to do that, man.
Mason Rudolph, Mason Rudolph played for Oklahoma State. It was like, dude, he never won no big games ever.
Yeah, like we'll get disrespected a lot. Like the guy was locked in for, I'd say after the Oregon game, he really started to look really good. And the way he played his last 4 games, like he played quarterback. Do you know he beat Dylan Gabriel, who everybody said was one of the best. Quinn Ewers, who everybody claimed was one of the best. Like he outdueled these guys, and yet somehow, some way, he's behind them in draft boards. That makes
For the
sense.
record, Thor, the guy whose article we're going, has Howard ahead of Quinn Ewers, and his comp for Quinn Ewers is Kenny Pickett. So just so we're all on the same page here.
Okay, that might be a look. What?
Ooh.
Kenny Pickett was a first round pick, so
Yeah, late first round pick, and
but it happened.
I don't know if anybody else was taking him in the first round. It did happen. It did.
Y'all gonna get mad a little bit. This, I feel like Will Howard remind me of Roethlisberger a little bit. Like he's big. Like Roethlisberger early in his career used to extend plays, and people used to just bounce off of him. They couldn't tackle him really, and then he would throw with this glove, and you're like, man, Ben Roethlisberger ain't really spinning it like that. But it always got to where it was going. He was always finding a way to extend and do these other different things. They leaned on the running game. He was fiery. Will Howard remind me a lot of Roethlisberger, like kind of where he's just, guys seem to like him. It's a lot to be said for somebody to come from another program, and then, at Ohio State, Ohio State has a cult. Like, people be playing for other schools, but Ohio State tatted on their body. Like, you came from Ole Miss. Why do you have an Ohio State tat? And you had it since freshman year. We don't understand that. They have a cult. They be having people. They be doing stuff on their own. We're going to go hang out on our own. We're going to go grocery shop. We're a family. And he came right in and was like, no, I'm the leader. And they won a championship game. That was crazy to do. Like, so I think people like him. He's a good leader. I think he more like Big Ben to me.
So that's not a bad comparison. I think he reminds me more of a more mobile Flacco, honestly. Can make all the throws. Can make all the throws that you're looking to see. And the reason why that's so intriguing, guys, is because I think when we talk about the type of quarterback that would fit Kevin Stefanski's system, you have to look no further than Joe Flacco and what he did for the Browns last season. Somebody who can play run the play action, can complete all the balls, who's got some mobility, right? I mean, that to me would make a lot of sense. I like Will Howard. I think Will Howard's going to have a chance to be a really good quarterback in this league. Kind of a late bloomer in terms of the NFL talk, right? I mean, because of the run they had in December and January, that has certainly put him more on the map now. And Tyvis, you hit it on the head, man. Look at all those dudes he beat. Those guys that everybody talked about for the entire year, for Heisman, for all these things, for NFL, whatever it may be. Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's like a forgotten dude after this whole thing. And he was the shit last year, going into the season. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Will Howard. I'm very intrigued with his prospects.
Will breakdown real quick, Tyvis. The breakdown from Thor basically said he's a late blooming prospect, a little bit older, which was what Mason Howard was coming out, benefited from playing in a good system that made some of his reads easy. And the one thing he said that reminded him most of Mason Rudolph was, despite the fact he was able to deliver the ball in most circumstances, some of the lower body mechanics weren't up to par with where the upper ball and the placement of the ball ended up, which works in college, may not work in the NFL. So that was his reasoning for the comp. He said Mason Rudolph had the same issue coming out of Oklahoma State.
No, well, I mean, I think that with Will's story is so great because he said that he learned the stuff he learned here was stuff he never heard of before. Like the way that
it was in that Bill Snyder program.
Yeah, he said no knock to Kansas State, but the stuff that I learned at Ohio State was stuff that I never heard at the quarterback position. So he was talking about how he never understood the term. Like he said, the guy is covered, and they like, no, he's open. He's like, what do you mean he's open? He's covered. He said, no, if you throw the ball here, he's open. So he's like, that's the first time he ever heard terms like that. And it allowed him to be better. And the crazy thing about him is this was his first year of technically real good quote coaching. And you watched him for what he was at the beginning of the season to where he was at the end of the season. That's two totally different Will Howards. So this is a kid that still is growing. It is imperative that he goes. He's not going to be a guy. He's not a day one starter. No. It's imperative that he goes to a good team with a good quarterback to sit behind and learn from. That's in a good offensive system. Like the 49ers. For example, just throw the 49ers out there. Say you don't want to pay Brock Purdy, you franchise, whatever. But he'll be behind Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant. who's got a chip on his shoulder. Will has a chip on his shoulder, who everybody obviously didn't think highly of, but he got with Kyle Shanahan, who's a great offensive mind, and Kyle put him in situations, and they put the playmakers around him to be able to thrive. With Will Howard, the biggest question is, can you do that? Was it that the receivers made you good, or are you good enough to make the receivers good? Like, that's kind of the question, because there's no denying the talent that's at Ohio State. Obviously, in the league, it won't be the same. You'll have some guys, everybody's talent is about the same. Can you still make those throws? And I guess that goes back to what the guy was saying in the report, with these mechanics being off, that might not get off. So it's up to the team that he goes to, the quarterback coach, to critique those things and continue to help him grow, because he has the ability to be a really good quarterback. He's a good leader. He can make the throws, but he just got to clean up some things. That's all.
Before we
real fast, guys. Will Howard, you know that he's going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler, right? You know that, right?
Yeah, that's going to happen.
It sounds like something they would do.
They drafted him and that defensive end.
Sawyer, JTT. Before we get to the last one, I saw someone text in that Howard reminds him of Kirk Cousins. Do you see that at all, or no?
I see a more physical Ryan Tannehill before I see that.
Yeah, great call, G. Bush.
Yeah.
More, you know what I'm saying?
Last quarterback comp that we are going to get to today is Jackson Dart, who, according to the most recent mock drafts, could be climbing up into the first round. And our final quarterback comp from Fantasy Life, Thor's Nordstrom, is Jackson Dart to Gardner Minshew. The comp comes from similar size, not a howitzer when it's throwing downfield, subtle movements in the pocket to create space, and it finishes with basically, dude is an absolute gamer, tough as nails, will stand in there and take hits, mobile enough to get out of the pocket. But in terms of arm ability and mobility, he sees a lot of Gardner Minshew in Jackson Dart's game. G. Bush, what do you think about that?
I'm not a big fan of the Gardner Minshew. I feel like Gardner Minshew is like he's the quarterback that you just throw in at the end. He's always on the waiver wire. You're like, okay, let me just get Gardner Minshew and see if I can give me 12 or 13 points this week. I think Gardner Minshew is not a bad athlete. Let's get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. I think he was running
2 years ago with the
2 years ago. He was running the read option all over us. So, Jackson Dart to me reminds me of like a more he's a more girthier version of Brock Purdy.
Girthy,
girthier, like a little bit. Like he's not big, but he runs the ball. Like I've seen him pull the ball down and run plenty of times. Like that's part of his game that people don't be looking at. I think he has a better arm than Brock Purdy. I think he's a little more mobile in the pocket than Brock Purdy. He doesn't have a tremendous arm, but he got a good enough arm, and he's also has a little bit of. Let me say this. He reminds me of the Californian version of like Baker Mayfield.
He's got that moxie. I'll give you that,
bro. He got.
What do we mean California? Like California cool? Like that? That sort of like vibe, the aura.
He's the surfer version. He got the long hair.
Sunshine.
He get people excited. Like he celebrate with his teammates. He got a good arm.
What you saying?
What'd you say?
He like Ronnie Bass.
Yeah. He's like so and when you look at it, I mean Baker did go number one. I'm not saying that like Jackson Dart gonna go number one. He just remind me of like a dude that like he got some stuff. I just can't see it all. You see what I mean? Like it's just there. Like I can't explain it.
Well, the thing about him is obviously he was like a guy that impressed at the Senior Bowl. The only person that said he didn't like him was Zach Jackson. Zach Jackson came in and was like, But everybody else that was there, he was the hot name. I think y'all had Cynthia on yesterday, and she was talking about Jackson Dart a little bit, talking about if he was there in the second round, they'd take that pick, but he probably gonna go in the first round because NFL got him graded as a first round pick. My only thing is he has moments and he has games where it's like, man, this dude is nice. Like he throws
do what he wants.
Passes, But then, like I say, it's some of the losses. It's some of the losses in some of those games that I'm just like, dude, what happened? Like, how did you go from throwing 300 to 400 yards in this game, but now you throwing for 190? Like, what is that? Like, one touchdown,
and there'll
one
be
pick,
games like the
what
LSU
you doing?
games and the
Yeah,
Bama
LSU,
games.
the
I've been
Florida.
looking for it.
It's like we're like you. This is the moments that you're supposed to be rising up, and you lose these games. So to me,
Two of those games he was hurt, just FYI. But
were they?
nothing to matter. Yeah, he had a pretty significant ankle deal going on like middle of the year. That I mean, I was watching. I was like, this ain't the same guy. Then you watch like what he did. Watch their bowl game against Duke, which is a really good defense.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, so like, okay, well, maybe that's what it is then. He's a guy that he might do some Baker stuff. He's hurt, but he feels like he's the best option. So
he's gonna be out there. He's a tough cookie now.
Yeah, well, like I said, I don't got no problem with that. Who would you say his comp was?
Gardner Minshew, who was also as tough as they come.
So Gardner Minshew, the thing about Gardner Minshew, did you know that his stats is similar to like his stats from like a couple years ago is similar to Trevor Lawrence? And the fact that Trevor Lawrence got paid a bunch of money and Gardner Minshew didn't. Like, did y'all notice that? No, the only reason I know this is because Sherm did like this whole podcast where he was like, Gardner Minshew and Trevor Lawrence is the same guy. And he like put up all these stats. And I was like, well, they are pretty close. So I say all that to say, Jackson Dart, because I think Gardner Minshew is a guy that, although he's been a journeyman, he also has been like a spark plug. He's been like a Jameis. You know, he goes to a place and he's a 1 year fix. You know, I don't know how long term he would be, but he can get you through a season. With Jackson Dart, obviously that won't be the case. He'll go somewhere where he's not going to be the starter right away unless Pittsburgh takes him in the first round, which a lot of people are saying that could be a potential landing spot for him. Then he probably could be forced to play there. But I think that he'll sit for a year. But I think, to be honest with you, I think after Cam Ward, as far as standing in there, throwing some heat and making some good plays, the wild splashy plays, I think he's probably second in this draft. I will say that.
What was the exact question again?
Do you see the Gardner Minshew comp, or do you think that's?
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, I see the comp. I mean, Minshew was what is he, a 6th round pick or something, or undrafted, whatever it was. Yeah. And that's why he didn't get paid, by the way, in Jacksonville. I mean, if he were, the number 1 pick, it'd have been a different story. But I can see that a lot. A lot of these air raid quarterbacks are very similar. I know like Lane Kiffin's not full air raid in that offense, but I mean, it's similar. Who's the other dude that came out of Ole Miss? Matt Corral was another guy that kind of ran that similar style.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of those quarterbacks. Yeah, Kelly, the nephew of Jim Kelly, was there too. I mean, they've got some guys. They've had some guys there that sort of fit that mold. I don't know, man. I'm of the mindset that there's going to be a player in this draft that's going to surprise everybody. And I don't know. It could be Jackson Dart in terms of like a guy that's going to be the 2nd overall pick, or like a top 10 pick that nobody's really talking about being a 1st round pick, especially from a quarterback position. So he could be that guy. I think that there's going to be some wild card stuff happen, especially in this 1st round.